Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host,
Godfast.
Huh?
That'll bring you to Godfast.
It'll bring it, the podcast will bring you Godfast. Maybe we should just say that instead of spiritual. Everybody says spiritual this and that. I'm all over that. The yoga podcast, whatever. People are thinking we're going to talk about upward facing dog and supta baddha kurmasana. We're not. We're going to talk about God fast.
Okay.
Real fast. So fast, you're going to have to tell me to slow it down. Good morning, everybody. It's questions and answers day. You're on episode 1427. It's a lot of podcasts. And today is the day we invite people to write their questions in. You got a question, you can do it on the Wisdom of the Sages platform, or you can email Miss Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And we're taking questions from our audience. We got a live audience here on Zoom. We even have a live audience on Facebook today because Saturday and Sunday we have live Facebook. Tomorrow we have interview day. Special interview is the beloved Jiva G from the Bhakti Recovery Group. Bhakti Recovery Group is saving lives and saving hearts, and really grateful for her and all the people that contribute to it. It's a 12-step program that goes hand in hand with Bhakti philosophy. Perhaps the first of its kind, but especially with people are dealing with some stuff they want to get deep and they want to uncover some stuff lodged in their heart. This is the community to go to, and so we're happy to support them. And we're going to interview her tomorrow. Miss Mara, do you have any announcements?
I do.
Are you spinning the dials today?
I am.
All right.
We're hosting our second annual spiritual retreat in the sacred city of Mayapur. Mayapur is the birthplace of ecstatic kirtan, and this retreat can't be missed. We'll be going to some powerful holy places, including Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, Srivas Thakur's house, Jagannath Mandir, and sunset boat rides on the Ganga. Go to wisdomofthesages.com to check it out and register.
Sunset on the Ganga, Kastuba.
Love it.
I love it too. I really love it. I had such a good time last year.
This year.
Oh yeah, that was this year. So we're going next year, January. Yeah, I had such a good time.
Can't wait.
You know what was great? There's Bengalis, because Tara, who hosts us, he's our tour organizer. He's American, but he lives in Mayapur. So he's like, what should I get for food? Should I get you guys some pizza and pasta? I was like, no. We are in Bengal. This is the land of the best food ever. You got to give us Bengali preparations. And he just whipped out. They really put together great. It's like Americans don't get to even eat this stuff. When they go to an Indian restaurant, they just lump it all. It's all Indian food. No. It's different. You get this village cooked food from the Bengalis. Next level stuff.
Special things. How about tomato mango chutney?
You don't get that here. You're not going to get that.
You put that stuff on anything. It's going to put that on shoe leather, man. It's going to be delicious.
Put that on a cardboard shoebox, and it's going to be wonderful. Yeah, great prashad, great people, unbelievable temple in the middle of the jungle. It's wonderful trip.
Although there was one excellent day of authentic Italian brick oven pizza by Gangadas that was just off the charts, right?
You know
I
what?
was sick that day, but
the Italians invited us to their little Italian ashram, and they went crazy. And it was like 40 of us, I think, and they just whipped out pizza after pizza after pizza after pizza.
The real stuff.
It was served by a bunch of Italians in a holy place. Then I did that Italian podcast.
Oh,
they had a podcast.
Yeah,
they do a
Gangadas.
Mayapur podcast. Yeah.
When those would you take an Italian who already loves to serve people nice food, and they have such delicious cuisine and such a nice spirit around their cuisine, and then you blend in the whole bhakti thing with that,
it's like
a very powerful combination.
That whole eat, pray, love thing. It's real.
It's all in one place.
It's all in one place. Mayapur is the original eat, pray, love.
Yeah. There you go.
Uh,
Maybe that's what we should call that retreat, the Eat, Pray, Love.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But they
Of
might
course,
think
it's
it's
been
love.
taken.
They might think it's romantic. Of course, it's been taken. It's copyrighted. Anyway,
All
it's
right.
that's gonna be. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Let's
Ah.
get into the Q&A.
All right, let's go into Q&A today. We don't have long. I'm coming to New York today.
Yeah, you're gonna spend a little time with me, bro? Maybe we spend a little, maybe we hang.
Nah,
Oh.
not gonna do that. I love you though.
No, I'm not gonna do
Love you
that.
though. I'm
All
gonna
right.
hang out. I'm gonna hang out with someone I love more than you in a different way.
Oh,
I'm gonna hang out with
that's
my
you
mom.
don't have to say it like that.
Yeah, that didn't sound good. Love her. I just love her in a different flavor of love.
Okay.
I love you, but
All
I
right.
love my mom in a different way. Yeah.
I like that it's a different way.
See, when I'm talking to you, I'm talking over you. When I'm talking to my mom, she's talking over me. That's the rasa. That's the
I see.
relationship. I'm not getting the
Okay.
word in when I'm talking to my mom.
Right.
He's just talking about. If you think I can ramble and squirrel, you got to hang out with my mom for an afternoon.
Okay.
She'll just switch the conversation mid conversation.
Even at 97,
98,
98.
98. Actually, she's going to be 98 in November.
Okay.
Okay, let's do this. Here's our question. This is from Eric from Canarsie. Canarsie is
Canarsie.
out in
I don't know if
Brooklyn.
everybody knows where Canarsie is. Yeah,
It's the last stop on the
the L train.
L train,
Yeah,
Canarsie.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn, New
Very-
York. Canarsie, way out there.
Way out there. It's a very end.
Whenever I hear the word Canarsie,
What do you think of?
I had to think of parampara.
Yeah.
You almost choked on
I was
your
choked. Well, you know,
beverage
when me
there.
and Kastuba were young, this is a weird thing about Krishna Bhakti in America. Like when we were young, getting into Bhakti at 22, the elders were like 35. You know what I mean?
Except for parampara.
Except for Parampara. There was a guy named Parampara, and he was 80 years old. And he used to come to the temple.
He was an
And
old Italian
he
guy.
was the pujari, this old Italian from this old Italian neighborhood in Canarsie, and he was the
And
pujari.
he was a pujari?
I remember him as the pujari.
No, I
Well,
don't.
yes, he was.
I don't know, Raghunath. I think
Don't
maybe
take that away from
ideas
him.
are getting mixed. I think
Don't
ideas.
take that away.
So I won't take it away from him in your head, okay? But he was a tailor. I think he had like two different lives. Like I think when he went back to Canarsie, nobody knew this whole Hare Krishna thing at all about him.
Right. No.
And then he had
was-
a whole nother world in the Brooklyn Temple. Even he had his own sewing machine set up there, and he would do tailoring. Right? He was like an old Italian tailor.
I didn't know that. Anyway,
You don't
way out in
remember that
Brooklyn.
sewing machine in the middle of the ashram hallway area, big open room area. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. You know, I would daydream back then when we were 22 years old. I'd think, you know, sometime in the future, there's going to be elders in the Hare Krishna movement
Now
that are
they're
like
here.
80. And then there's going to be new people that are like 20. And then I'll be somewhere in the middle there. And it's like that now. We have elders who are actually old. You
Yeah.
know, everyone had to assume this position of elderly, even
When
though
they're
they were
very young.
very young. And
Yeah, it's
they
true.
had to man up and woman up at a very young age.
Yeah.
Mary, you better start womaning up.
You see, I think you took the tailoring, and in your mind you associated that with pujari, and I think you flipped him.
No. Anyway.
All right.
Remember things too, Kostuba. All right, let's get to this question. This is Eric from Canarsie, and he says, "Dear sages, I hope this message finds you in great health and spirits."
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Allow me to first express my deepest gratitude for the profound impact your podcast has had on my spiritual journey. I tell you, if people don't write these letters, we have no idea that people are out there in Canarsie getting something out of this. Thank you. Since discovering Wisdom the Sage, I've not missed a single episode, each
Whoa.
one enriching my understanding of life, spirituality, and personal growth in ways I couldn't have imagined. You know, that's what you get from the Bhagavatam. You get your understanding of life. You get that. That's important. You get spirituality, and you get personal growth. You don't just get personal growth. Some people just want personal growth. You get it all. It's a complete package. It's a complete makeover.
Yeah.
Your collective insights have been a beacon for me, guiding me through my own introspection and spiritual explorations.
That's very kind of you to say, Eric.
Very sweet.
Thank you.
You know, that's how in this culture, that's what you do before you even start to speak, is you appreciate.
Hmm.
It's a great quality, you know. You start to appreciate. I appreciate you
I appreciate
showing
you.
up here on a regular basis, practically holding my hand. If you were next to me, you'd probably be holding my hand, encouraging me every
I love
step
you,
of the
rubber
way.
mouth.
Thank you. I love you too. If you were here, I'd hold your hand back. It
I
wouldn't be a
might let go
one-way
of your
street.
hand,
And I'd still
but
hold
it
yours
wouldn't
to
mean that
show
I
how
don't love you.
after a
I
certain
might
awkward
throw your
amount of
hand.
time,
I
you'd let
might
go of my hand
peel your hand off of mine, but it doesn't mean that I don't love
and I'd
you.
embrace you. All right. Continuing on. I am writing today with a request for guidance. As
Okay.
someone who practices Krishna consciousness, yet not a formal devotee, I got news for you, buddy. You are.
Yeah, that. I think a lot of this question goes right there to that statement. But let's keep reading.
I often find myself at a loss of words for when asked about my spirituality. I struggle to convey my beliefs and practices succinctly without sounding convoluted or unclear.
It can be challenging.
Yeah. I've pondered if the term sadhaka,
Yeah.
right? That means one who practices sadhana, might apply to someone like me, someone committed to spiritual practices, but not fully aligned with traditional devotee status. However, I'm unsure if this label truly fits or if there's another term that might better describe my path. Well, you know, we used to call them in the old days. Anyway,
Friends of Lord Krishna.
fringies, friends of Lord Krishna. We don't use that term because we're all sort of fringies now, except you, stupid. You're not a fringy.
I think certain people might categorize me as a fringy.
I'm a fringe. I'm on.
You're the outer fringe.
On the outer it was such a put down to call
Grady.
someone a fringy. Yeah, he's a fringy. It was such an exclusive cult, wasn't it? Tracy Conway say I'm a fringy. We're all fringy.
Maybe we just have to embrace it.
I embrace your fringiness.
Okay.
Could you offer any suggestions on how I might describe my spiritual stance to others? Any insights or personal experiences you could share on navigating these conversations would be invaluable. Perhaps there's a term from the rich tapestry of spiritual traditions that could encapsulate my journey. Or maybe you could advise on how to craft my own description that feels authentic. Thank you once again for all that you do. Your podcast has been a sanctuary of wisdom, and I am eager to hear your thoughts. With humble regards and much love, your servant. Oh, he's got
Eric from Canarsie.
Eric from Canarsie. Well, that's
He
beautiful.
sandwiched it there too. He's had some sweet things to say at the end too.
Yeah. I'm going to jump into this first. Is it okay, Kostuba?
Yeah.
First of
It's
all,
not a verse, but I suppose
I'm going to jump into
read it
this
that way.
first. I said I didn't say first.
Well, first, I thought you said verse.
I'm going to jump into this first, and in my eyes, Eric, you're a devotee of Lord Krishna. Now, devotees never consider, I'm not a devotee. Devotees are always thinking, I'm so far. There's so many people so much more evolved than me. Devotees never like to think of themselves as devotees. They like to think of this, well, I like to be a humble servant of the devotees, but we don't feel qualified. But in my eyes, sir, you are a devotee of Lord Krishna. Now, sometimes we may not like to present ourselves to other people like that publicly because people have a tendency to want to put you in a box. Like if you say I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm a Jew, I'm an Hasidic Jew or a Catholic, they want, oh, that's what you are. So sometimes when I approach people who are just like, what kind of path? What are you? Sometimes you get people ask, what are you? I always like to say, well, I'm a spirit soul. It completely disarms them. I'm a spirit soul, someone like you, spirit soul, and I'm trying to find God, and I study Vedic teachings. So it really depends on what you want to call yourself or how you want to present yourself. Internally, I want to call myself, I want to label myself. You know, maybe publicly I keep myself a little bit reserved, but internally, I want to call myself, I want to be a servant of the devotees. That's what a servant of the devotees of Lord Krishna, of Radharani, of Radha and Krishna. That's what I like to internally call myself. Publicly, you could say I'm a Krishna Bhakta. It depends on your circle of people you're presenting yourself to. When I present myself to people that know nothing about it, sometimes I'll say, well, I'm in a spiritual path. I'm influenced by Vedic teachings. I like the sadhaka. If I walk around saying, what are you? Oh, I'm a sadhaka. I don't think anyone's going to get that. Internally, I can think of myself as a sadhaka. Like I have a sadhana. I have a regulated spiritual practice. I want to show up on a regular basis. And these old pejoratives like fringy, friend of Lord Krishna, they don't exist. To me, this is crazy talk. Everybody who's recognized themselves as part of something bigger, we're devotees of Lord Krishna. We're devotees of Lord Krishna, and we're trying to reawaken that in a regular lifestyle and the way we move in this world. And the interesting thing is we can call someone whatever, even a spiritual pejorative, but we should understand that there's people getting into this, 20 years after we do, but that may be very spiritually dialed in already. They're almost maybe more evolved than us. And everyone's just like on a weird spiritual journey themselves, because life is not short. It can't be measured within this 20 years or 40 years or 60 years that we've been alive. We've been on some type of journey for lifetimes, and we've all done some horrific things in this life and in lifetimes, and we've all got blood in our hands, and we've all been saints.
Where's this going? We're not... Do we all?
Yeah, we've all done crazy stuff within lifetimes. We've done crazy stuff. You too, Mr. Kostuba. You're doing some crazy stuff. And then we get put in these situations where we can cultivate our good or cultivate our bad. So I look at you as a spiritual person, and you're connected now with a community of people who want to spiritually uplift yourself. And internally, I'm a devotee of the devotees of Lord Krishna, the Radha and Krishna.
All right.
That's how I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I think there's two levels, two facets to this question that need to be addressed, and you're doing a great job on it, Raghunath. I appreciate all you said. One is he's asking, how can I communicate to people better what I'm into? And the other one is how he categorizes himself in the world of bhakti yoga, or in the association of, in the world of bhakti yogis, I could say, right?
Yeah.
And so, which one to deal with first? Let's first deal with that association. Who am I in the world of devotees? Eric used a term where he said, "I'm not a formal devotee." Let's take one step back. Look at the letter that Eric wrote. You upon hearing his letter, you had to appreciate his mood.
Sure.
And
right.
You appreciated that mood because you saw it. This is how devotees speak, right? Like they have a certain sensitivity about in their mannerisms and in their thinking, and you recognize that, right? Now his name is Eric. It's not Akeshwar or Ekanath or something like that, right?
Name, right?
Yeah. So that would have been that would have, if he would have had a Sanskrit name, that would have been an external symbol that might have indicated a type of status, right?
Yeah.
He's been formally initiated into this path. He's taken certain vows.
But that also doesn't mean anything, because it means something, but you could also give up those vows.
Yeah, it may or may not mean something, right?
Right.
It may or may not have substance, but here's the point. When Raghunath heard this letter, he found some essence in it. This person speaking like a Vaishnava. This person this person is just naturally operating on a level that the Vaishnavas operate on. You found the essence. You didn't think, oh, his name is Eric, therefore he's not going to be operating on that level.
He's not in the club.
Yeah, but no, you just recognized, oh, he's like, I can feel some depth in him just by the way that he's expressing himself. And that's what Vaishnavas do. There's this term, Saragrahi Vaishnava. Right? Saragrahi. That the real bhakti yogi, they're seeking the essence. And this is the natural progression in true spiritual life. When you come to it in the beginning, the externals are going to be more important to you, and that's natural. That's going to happen. I need to be able to recognize what's what, and externals can be helpful for that.
Mhm.
But as we go deeper, we have to start seeing beyond the externals, and we begin to seek the essence. And so the real deeply spiritual bhakti yogi, they can see that essence wherever it is. And so when Raghunath was using these terms, kind of like these, you know, the the Hare Krishna movement, if we want to call it that, it's an ancient tradition, but it was freshly replanted in a foreign world,
Right.
back in the mid 60s and the 70s. It was a brand new thing, and a lot of that terminology grew out of that time when the movement itself was just a toddler, just it was just taking its first steps, and hopefully this movement matures as it goes forward, and it does mature, and it has matured. Maybe it's matured at different rates and different spaces, and there's always going to be people that are coming to it on an infant level, and they're going to operate on an infant level, and just like the 7 stages we were talking about yesterday, right? They
Yeah.
operate on an infant level, and then a child level, and then a more mature level, and hopefully we're all moving forward. If we're finding the essence of these texts, then we are moving forward, and we are maturing in how we recognize each other. So we should be careful. Where this becomes real serious is we begin to judge people by the externals, what their name is, how they dress, how many years they've been around. These are all external things. It's important to us what it means to be a bhakti yogi is you recognize bhakti wherever it is, and it's sacred to you. And if we're going to treat it as it's sacred, then we need to be able to recognize it. And the externals don't necessarily identify it.
Like that.
Okay. So that's one thing. Eric, you sound like someone that has depth to us. And so when you say formal, I assume you mean I haven't been formally initiated, I don't wear certain clothes, things like that. That's not so important. Not so important. Okay. Having said all that, how do you communicate what you're into to people? People are, they might say, what's your religion?
Right.
What do you believe? And as Raghunath was saying, you said something like it depends who I'm talking to or something like that, right? And
Sure.
that's key. That's essential for this. It's not like we can just give you, like a one-page document that's going to say, here's how you do it. It's an
Hand them a
art.
piece of paper.
Yeah, it's an art to explain yourself, and it has so much to do with, and this is key right here. Taking a moment, rather than just rushing forward and throwing out terminology that people may not even understand, taking a moment to understand the frame of reference that the person that you're speaking to has. Do they understand Sanskrit terminology? Or is their understanding of it maybe immature? So like, in other words, like, what is it that you're into? Bhakti yoga. Now, maybe for someone in India, that'll give them a clear idea of what you're into. Maybe not even there nowadays, right? Maybe they'll understand, oh, okay, I get it. He's into that devotional path, and he's a Vaishnava, and he's, he's into Krishna and Ram and that kind of thing. But if you say to like an American who's not familiar with this, and you say, I'm into bhakti yoga, they might be like, no, I'm not talking about your exercise routine. I want to know your religious beliefs,
Now here we are, like whatever, what do we fit 60 years in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. You go to the New Delhi airport and they'll look at you and they go, Ishkan? That's a common thing in India. Ishkan? And you're just like,
yeah, it's big.
well, I used to. I don't give us some whole explanation like, well, I don't live in a temple anymore, but I live upstate, and I kind of whole thing. I just say, yeah. You know what I mean? That's what they know. They just think Ishkan Bhakti, right? That's a good answer in India.
Yeah. And so you really have to think about who you're speaking to and what they're going to be able to understand. For someone that has some yoga experience explaining what a Vaishnava is, they probably never heard that. A good chance they've never heard that word to explain.
Yep.
This is the devotional path. It's based on texts like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We see God as Sri Krishna, who manifests as so many different avatars, including, maybe that's what they're looking for, but maybe it's not. Maybe they're trying to understand, are you one of these people that like believes in reincarnation? So you have to try to understand where they're at. As far as I can see, you're a Vaishnava, and even that's a term like Prabhupada would say, like, we don't call ourselves Vaishnava. We don't even call, Prabhupada, he once wrote a letter to someone that said, we don't call ourselves devotee, right? That's a very high position.
Right.
He would say, we are the servants, like that. And we call ourselves a servant, in our prayers when we're praying to Krishna, we don't say, Krishna, I'm your devotee. We say, Krishna, I'm your servant. I want to be your devotee. So, yeah, it has so much to do. He's asking for suggestions, and let's say it's a person that's relatively unfamiliar with Eastern thought or even Hinduism or things like that. Then and then there's other factors. How much time do you have to explain things to someone?
Right.
And if you're trying to put a label on yourself, for some people, I'm a Hindu. That might be what they're kind of like, as much as they can grasp in the amount of
Right.
time that you have to speak of them, and they're just
It's
trying
like
to get
an elevator pitch.
that's
You're looking-
yeah. It might actually be I'm a Hindu. Okay, that now I get it. Or it may be, maybe you have a little more time to spend with someone, and you say, well, I'm part of a tradition that's goes back many thousands of years. It's a very very ancient tradition, but it's very popular all over India.
I always say it's theistic
Okay, it's theistic.
because sometimes people are like,
It-
oh,
for some people that might not even quite, like that's a bit of it's a bit of an academic term, right? You might, in other words, you might, instead of saying theistic to someone, you might say, I believe that there's one God.
yeah, yes, you can say it like that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to correct you, Raghunath. I'm just talking with you here. Right?
I always say it's a Eastern, it's a part of Hinduism, but it's theistic, like a Judeo-Christian culture.
Okay.
People tend to think it's
That is
that it's
polytheistic.
polytheistic. It's not. This is a theistic version of Hinduism. That's what I say.
Yeah, so that's another way to understand it. And I think, you mentioned yourself as a sadhaka. Sure, if you're practicing every day these, steadily, seriously, these practices of chanting, of hearing, etc., then you are a sadhaka. But that's not going to mean anything to most people either. So you think carefully about what they can understand and how much time you have to share it, and then be honest and direct, but just try to. The art is not to. It can't be just like something that you have written on a business card. It just requires that sensitivity. And I think if you do that, Eric, you sound like a sensitive person. So I think if you just take the moment to try to understand, for this person, I explain it this way, and for that person, I explain it another way, then I think you'll do fine. But mostly, I want you to think about your own sense of identity. That don't think that this isn't. Don't think that a person can't live on their own and dress in normal Western clothes or whatever, and not be fully a devotee of Krishna. It's the externals are not so important. It's the internal, and you're doing that. All right.
I like that. Ready for question number 2?
I am.
All right, this is from Brajabhumi.
Brajabhumi, it's one of our sage group leaders, great soul. Really, one of these really great souls, full-time doctor, works long hours, helping people, deeply devoted.
Boomy. You like that name, Mara? Boomy? Imagine if you got that name, Boomy. Boomy Davy.
Sort of cool.
It's sort of cool. I think so too.
Bhumi Devi, yeah.
The picture.
Brajabhumi is very
what
cool.
will Mara's name be? What will Mara's? Sometimes you get a name that's got nothing to do with your name. Like Kastuba's name is David. That shocks people.
It's a real
Must have been
shocker when that one comes out.
Kastuba? What? I totally wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it's like that.
Probably Deva. Deva Rishi, Deva Vrata, Deva Darshana,
Devananda.
Devananda, Kostuba. Boom, left field.
Came out of nowhere.
Right? You're like, all right then. Okay.
Where's it coming from?
Rajabhumi.
Rajabhumi.
he
Oh,
emailed
these are from his sage group. He wrote
Oh,
he wrote a question where he had like a lot of different questions from his sage group. We took 2 for now. We're hanging on to those other ones. We may come back to them.
Okay, great. So he says, Hare Krishna. Thank you for all that you do. Truly amazing and life-changing for so many. So grateful to you all for the opportunity to be engaged as a sage group leader. Here are some questions from current and previous group members.
All right.
If there's a
Sage groups.
concept, number one, if there's a concept of a spiritual bank account that never runs dry, and we continue on our bhakti journey in our next life, then what is the urgency of advancing in this lifetime? Well, that's what I say. Just kidding. Let's answer that one first. You know, it's like you might be a very spiritual person at home. And then you go to school. And in your school, no one has an urgency of bhakti. And then you ever do this? You're like, if you're academic and you go to school and you're in your honors English class, then your honors history class, your honors math class, and all of a sudden you get thrown into a gym class, and all of a sudden, like, you're not with all those honors. Mara, you were an honor student. I can't even relate to this analogy.
Mara was
as
an
well,
honor
just
student?
imagining. Mara?
I didn't know that.
Are you kidding? She's top of her class and everything, and the
Yeah.
head of the
Wow.
ladies field hockey team.
Yeah,
She was
you're
like a big shot.
exaggerating a little. I wasn't top of my class and everything.
All right, but you know what I'm talking about.
Most
She was one of
things.
those good students.
Then she went
But
on to
then-
become the #1 caterer.
Then she's number one around here.
Maybe
So-
she should just be running our show. It's like
So the point is, sometimes you get thrown into the gym class with all these like thugs, criminals, problematic kids, and then you're like, oh God, what have I done? I got to get out of this gym class. And you know what? That's the material world. We see that happen in school, right? Or the cafeteria where you get picked on, or you get bullied, something like that. And that's in the course of your high school experience. Then, of course, you do them the course of a day. You're around, you're listening to Wisdom of the Sages in the morning, and you feel very high. There's very enlightened people. And then you go home on a family holiday, and people are cursing and throwing things, or who knows, if you have a very dark family experience, one guy, Uncle Louie's drunk, or whatever it is, and you got to deal with all this stuff. So that happens in this life. We can change communities, and all of a sudden we're dragged into different association, so to speak, that could hinder us. Imagine if that happens for lifetimes. You could be a very spiritual person, but in your next life, you take birth in a circle of people that aren't necessarily very spiritual. And why? Because that's what journeys are. You just keep on running into people. Now, you will maintain, and sometimes you do see this. You see maybe a people who are maybe a person who, a culture of people that aren't known for being very enlightened. When you talk about enlightened, you maybe think of some type of spiritual academic, someone who's gone to Harvard Divinity School. But if you think about a bunch of New York City cops, you're not thinking of them as most enlightened, or maybe construction workers. You don't think of them as enlightened academic philosophers. But there might be one of them who's just like a deep thinker. It's maybe not the culture. It's maybe not what they're talking about, but there might be one that's a deep thinker. So you could be born with your bhakti samskaras, but get tossed into a community of people that aren't that necessarily that deep, even though you might have high adhikari, like qualifications from a previous life, but that just might not be the community. So you just never know. So I think the purpose of the urgency is, hey, you got a direction, you got a vehicle, find your service, find your contribution, and then run with this. Because life is very short. And we say that a lot on the show. Life is very short. What are you going to do with this short life? And the thing is, life is very short. All you got to do is go to the hospital and see young people dying, or talk to anybody north of 25 years old, and they realize there's young people that pass away unexpectedly. And we've all lost people that we love. And it's important to embrace our spiritual life. And not even just for the afterlife, just because it enriches this life. So your spiritual life, it's not like God's going to punish you if you just suck it up this life and just do the miserable work of being a spiritual guy, and then in your next life everything will be great. No, spiritual life's actually much more enjoyable now. The promise is not somewhere in the future, although that's there. It's because it's here and now. It's susukam kartam avyam. It's everlasting and it's joyfully performed. Everything that we're doing is joyful.
Got it.
You got that. Right, Mara?
Yeah.
Look at Mara. She looks pretty joyful there, knitting.
Joyful, yeah.
What do you think about that first one, Kostub?
Well, yeah, you're right. It's commonly the great teachers of bhakti will try to help us understand there's an urgency to this. And one way to look at that is that the human life is a very rare position. Just do the math, right? It's like there's 8,400,000 species out there, and and there's this
Some
one.
are horrible. Some are horrible species. You'd be like,
Most
I
of them,
being a dog.
kind of.
Yeah. What about a worm? What if there's some grotesque? Go in my garden. There's some grotesque things if you dig around in the earth that you could be born as.
So there's that's the first answer to your question is you have a very rare opportunity, and to not take it would be foolish. And it might be a very, very long time until you come back to it. So that's part of it. And then Raghunath took it on a deeper level where he said, this life, it makes this life very special and wonderful. These devotional practices and the realizations that you get and the feelings that you have in devotion, they're actually very beautiful and wonderful. So why ignore them? And if you can experience them in just this one form, then take it up. There's something about the question.
It bothers you?
Yeah, you could say it doesn't bother me that they asked it, but I'm saying I'm not even saying that I don't think the person that asked this question necessarily embraces this attitude.
Sure.
But there's something in the attitude of the question that there's a callousness in it. In the tradition of bhakti, it's approaching us on so many levels to help us understand so much. Like, for instance, there's a musical level with lyrics, right? There's songwriters in the bhakti tradition. And those songs are so important because they help illustrate an attitude, right? And that's also there in the prayers of the Bhagavatam, right? What is Bhagavatam but just like a collection of prayers, essentially, that are demonstrating the attitude of one who's, you could say, has bhakti, but you could say of one who's understood truth and understood how this world really works, and that leads to bhakti, it leads to devotion, it leads to love. That attitude expressed in this question it's almost like bereft of love, right? Like the whole idea is ontologically there's this love personified in the form of Krishna. And we're kind of the brats in this equation, right?
Right.
Like we're kind of like, I don't need you, and I'm just gonna go and off on my own, and it's like, okay,
I'll take a bhakti in my next life.
Yeah.
It's like I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's kind of just turning the back on that beautiful, purely loving soul. So it shouldn't even have to be the threat of thousands and millions of births, in other species that triggers us. It should be like, if someone's giving such love, not to return it is it's just sad.
It's ungracious.
Yeah, it's ungracious, and as you're saying, it just means you're missing out on so much. So why would we treat that so callously? Like, what does it matter? I can always do it again in the next life.
Even just from a material standpoint, think how magical and interesting your life is. Just materially. If people just want to, like, that's why I don't like to use these arguments you're gonna get born as a dirty little worm or a snail, and then you're gonna get picked at, and then a chicken's gonna pluck your and pierce your body. I don't even use it. Look at your life. You've eat incredible food, you listen to incredible music, you travel the world over, you're
So
bathing
many
in
great
sacred
friends.
rivers, you meet incredibly interesting people, you meet weird people that are very interesting too.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. So
it's
yeah,
rich.
it's beautiful, it's colorful, it's rich, but there's a call of love. That's the essence of the universe, That's Krishna's flute is calling us.
I like that. Okay.
Recognize it, feel it. It's beautiful, it's perfect. To just say, "Oh, I don't need that." It's kind of like picture like a film. If there's someone that's just like kind and loving and beautiful, and it's got and they're opening themselves up, and the person like, "Oh, don't think I need that right now. Maybe some other time." It's just like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Let's be the best we can be.
Flippant.
Yeah, let's be the best we can be, and best we can be is in bhakti.
We can do
Is in
better.
love, right?
We can do better.
We
Bhakti
can do
yoga.
better. Okay, that was question 1. We can do better.
A little bit. I hate that statement, by the way. We can do better. It's like,
You're better than this.
Let me shame you now.
You're better than this.
You're better than this.
But that you're better than this is kind of a way to do it in a positive. I mean, maybe it's a little back. You can look at it either way. It's like a backhanded compliment, or it's a front-handed insult.
It's a front-handed. You want to get slapped with the front of my hand or the back of my hand? How about a pat, pat? How about both? That guy takes off his glove and slaps you across each cheek.
But there is something that to saying you're better than this. Like
we're better than this. We can do better. We can do hard things, Kastuba.
All right. Question number 2. Practical one.
Can you explain who is addressed as a Maharaj versus a prabhu? That's one. What is a bramacari and a sannyasi? What are the various levels of priests at temples? And who is allowed to go on the altar?
Okay.
Why don't you do this one?
This is below you, huh? Is that...
No, I felt like I did the first one.
You're better than this. Is that what it is?
We can do it.
Okay, well,
I
so
did the other one first. So I'm just
this I can hear someone that's like relatively new to this culture and trying to understand. Some people they call it Maharaj, and some people they call Prabhu. And okay, so Maharaj is in our culture. Maharaj is usually a term that we use for a sannyasi, for the renunciate. And the next question is, what is the sannyasi? So we'll get to that in a second. But that means, okay, let's deal with that question first then. Sannyasi is a renunciate who's taken lifelong vows of renunciation. Lifelong vows of celibacy. They don't have a wife and family and all that. They've let that go. They're no girlfriends for the sannyasi. Brahmachari is, we could say that they're living that life without the lifelong vow. They may at some point choose to get married, and but so they're kind of like a student monk. They're learning renunciation. They're learning philosophy, and they're learning how to serve, and they're learning so much shastra. But that may be one period, and then they're going to go and get married and live a life as a householder. So commonly we call that sannyasi Maharaj, which literally means great king.
Yeah, it's also a name for great kings.
Great king, yes.
Like that, all the kings were called the Maharajas or the Maharans.
Yeah, so the sannyasi is called Maharaj because like a king is a ruler. So the sannyasi is someone who has, ideally, is the ruler of their senses. They're no longer controlled by the mind of the senses. They rule it. And so they're called Maharaj. But, sometimes we also call just very senior devotees Maharaj too.
Can I ask you a question, Kastuba? Can I squirrel this out? Is it because I hear your answer, and this is how we do it traditionally in our tradition.
Yeah.
Was that word Maharaj newly introduced within the last 100 years? Because Maharaj is the name of a king. Did they call people, or did they call just people swamis or goswamis?
Well, swami also means master, right? So it's a similar concept. To answer that question for real, we would have to go back into the Shastra and see, do we find it being used that way, right? I honestly, I'm not sure. My assumption is that it's been around for a very long time, but I can't tell you that for sure. That's a good question.
Nityananda Chandra, look that one up for us.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. If you were
Right.
to do a search in a program that has like all these ancient texts in it, and then you could see, oh yeah, here's you know, here's Narada calling
Right.
Yudhishthira Maharaj. Okay, well he was a king. Okay, well here's Narada calling a renunciate Maharaj. You know,
Right. Would it be an insult to a renunciate to call him a great king? You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think it's ever
Considered
considered an insult, but
Anyway,
okay.
sorry
So
about that. I thought you might know some history of
yeah,
Gaudiya
maybe
Vaishnava
we can look
culture
that up.
in that
That's a great
regard.
question.
That's
I
fine.
like questions like that. Okay,
Yeah, me too.
next one is and Prabhu is we call everyone Prabhu. You
Prabhu.
know, even some people don't like calling women Prabhu because it's a male. Prabhu would be the female form. But
Right.
even sometimes Prabhu call. I don't want to get into that whole debate.
I call these
But-
I call these Russian ladies Prabhu, and they get so angry at me. Don't call me Prabhu.
They want
I
to be
was like,
called
why
Prabhu
not? It's a good thing.
because they don't like the term. Or
No, because they want to be called Mataji, mother,
mother.
affectionate mother. And then I'll say, well, then some ladies you call them Mataji. Don't call me Mataji. I have no children. Okay.
That's a lot of people don't
Like,
want.
well, come on.
Give me what am I? Just tell me what to
I'm
call
just
you.
trying to be nice.
All
And,
right.
the Russian ladies, they call me, okay. They'll say,
What
oh,
Russian ladies are
okay,
you
okay,
associating
brother.
with? Who are these Russian ladies that
They
you're
call
hanging out
me,
with?
they call me,
Group.
they call me, okay, Mataji. Thank you for calling me Prabhu. They call me Mataji.
Oh,
Anyway,
I see. Playing with you.
anyway, I think I've taken that word and I call everybody Prabhu, which means master, whether it's masculine or just like you say, hey, excuse me, guy. Sometimes you'll say that for a man or a female. I've taken that word, I've updated it, Prabhu, and I've used it for all genders. It's an all gender word. So if you hang out with me and I call you Prabhu, that means I'm addressing you in an affectionate way as a person,
Respectful way.
a respectful person who's got their act together, and I look up to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu?
Don't call me that.
Okay, Mataji? Yeah, it just sticks me with the needle. Oh.
Okay. The next question was, what are the various levels of priests at the temple? You know, in our tradition, in certainly in ISKCON, right, our second initiation, we take a first initiation, which we call Harinam initiation, where you're given the Maha Mantra to chant, you're given a name, etc. You take your vows. That person still isn't allowed on the altar in the temple. That's reserved for people that have taken the second initiation. They receive the Gayatri Mantra. And at that point, we allow people to serve as priests on the temple and perform those rituals. Are there various levels of priests? I don't think we really have various levels of priests, although there may be like a head priest in a temple who's responsible for setting the standard of the worship in the temple, etc.
The Pope? We have a Pope? Not really.
We're more of a democratic system.
We have various cardinals.
Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And then who's allowed to go on the altar? Will that answer that question, right? It's
Yeah.
people that have second initiation. I mean, at least they can be allowed to go on the altar. The head priest may say, still, you're not trained to the, you
they
go
get
through some
trained
training
in
for
how
that.
to- Yeah, it's a whole nother facet of Krishna consciousness, how to worship a deity. Just like it is how to do a wedding, or just like it is how to do a funeral. These are all things people get trained in the same way you'd get.
Okay. Should we do one more?
Another question
Yeah.
from Sugam Shrestha.
Yeah. It's a bit long. Why don't you want me to read this? I can summarize it a little bit.
Okay, alrighty.
Or we could save it for next time.
Maybe we
Why don't
should
we
save
save
it.
it?
You know why? Because we got to
We're
hit
out of
the
time.
road today,
Where are you going?
New York.
Oh, that's right.
I'm
Yeah,
going
that's
to
right.
the
Okay.
Yasa Puja.
All right.
All right. Well, we don't have.
So there's
any-
no takeaways today. We're
no
done.
takeaways. So now there's
we
dead
kind of fizzled
air.
out today.
Well, I'm gonna be so close to you in New York City, Kostuba,
And yet so far.
Yet so far.
Oh, my
Thanks,
heart would
everybody,
just
for
be
joining
aching.
us.
Ragu.
Kostuba's just walking around Central Park chanting Ragu, Ragu, Ragu. Raghu,
Is
Raghu,
he there?
Raghu.
Is he there? I thought I saw him, but it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. Are you Raghu? Are you Raghu? Bowing down to random people. Are you Raghu?
Maybe you ought to invite me over to your mother's place sometime.
He sees a squirrel and he thinks of me.
How come you never invite me over to your relatives' house or your family? All these years. Never once.
Good point. You never been to my mom's house? You want to come over? Come over.
I don't really have time.
You'd be like, I'm out of here.
I just want to go and meet, what's her name again? Vishaka? Lolita.
Lolita.
Raghunath. Bring her some prasad at least. Huh? Read her a little Bhagavatam. Take her out to the Bhakti Center.
Take her to the Bhakti Center.
Kidnap her.
You can't just like throw these 98-year-old ladies in the back of taxis.
You get a palanquin, you find a way, Raghunath. You put her in a basket and you carry her out, okay? Bring her to the temple.
Who's that lady riding around in a palanquin? The poor guys carrying her around.
You put her in a laundry basket.
Yeah,
The
put
two
her-
of you can carry her over, okay?
Well, that's how they used to carry, what was it, Jagannath Das Babu? Put them in
Yeah.
a laundry
In a
basket.
basket.
I carried my mom in a basket. Pretty small.
Yeah.
I could probably don't even have to put her on my head. I could just carry her in the basket.
I think you and Mara could definitely handle Shaka Lolita.
You can't drop them. Once you drop them, it's over.
Don't drop her.
What happened? Why did you drop my mom? Her shoe came off and it just slipped.
It's worth the risk, you know?
Worth the risk of dropping them?
Yeah.
Just
Just
caress
careful.
this man. We're just lifting up old women. I don't even like her. I think when you start lifting up elderly women that aren't related to you, that's when they can call the police on you. That's when their children can call the police on you.
Right.
Wait, don't you understand? We're going to the temple. They don't care.
We're going to the
Their
temple.
children are like
India
lawyers.
might get away with that. We're bringing them to the temple. Okay, all right. It happens.
Oh wow!
There's
Look
a-
at road rage. He's swimming in the Adriatic Sea right now.
Whoa, look at that. There's a huge wave coming. There's a huge...
Watch out! There's a rogue wave.
It's a mountain.
Any nightmare could happen in a moment.
Yeah.
You understand that, right?
Are there sharks in that water? Not kidding, I'm asking.
They find alligators in the Yamuna sometimes.